So here we are in this hospital room where Ken is sitting at his daughter's bedside, listening to her talking about how she had come to be there. I mean, her boyfriend threw her a beating. He was merciless. He beat her up. And she is explaining the story, and Ken is devastated. He's devastated. He's fighting back tears. He is devastating. He's looking at his little girl who's in so much pain, who's battered and bruised, and he doesn't know how to help her. He doesn't know how to take away this pain. Shortly after, Zandi's mom comes running in, Mona, and you can tell just by the look in her face and the puffiness and redness of her eyes, she's been crying. She's been crying and crying. Now, at some point, Ken managed to let Mona know that they're at the hospital, and this is what has happened. And so when she gets there, she immediately rushes over to her daughter and she holds her. And she's just saying, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And the daughter is crying. I mean, you know that feeling when people keep on asking you, "Are you okay?" And it just makes you so much more emotional because you know you're not okay. You're not okay. There's no other word for it. You are not okay. And as she's holding her daughter and trying to comfort her, Ken takes this opportunity to just step out and go and catch some fresh air because he is boiling inside. He's hurt, he's confused, he's enraged, he's all of those things. And so he steps outside and he's pacing up and down those corridors, trying to think like, what do I do now? As a father, how do I, like, what do I do? What do I say? Now remember, Ken has never had to be the good guy. Ken has always been the bad guy. In his past relationships, he was the guy who made women cry. He may not have laid hands on them, but he wasn't this guy. He wasn't the comforter. He wasn't the nurturer. He wasn't this person. And although him and Spongile had gotten married and Spongile had fallen in love with him, still, he wasn't the best of who he could really be. He wasn't the best person. So he's pacing up and down this corridor trying to figure out, what do I say? What do I do to what? And now the next thing that's going through his mind is, how do I get my hands around Malcolm's stupid ass neck? I want to throttle this man. I want to throttle this boy. And he's pacing and pacing and pacing and pacing and pacing. Eventually he gathers himself and he goes back into the hospital room. Shortly after, a doctor walks in and he greets Zandi's parents, and he says, he's gotten the test results back, and he asks her, "How is the pain?" And she says, I'm in a lot of pain. And he says that the nurse will be in shortly to give her another dose of painkillers, and that he just wants to discuss the results. So he says to her, "Look, you are very battered and bruised. You've got some minor cuts and bruises, but the thing that I'm really concerned about is the damage to your eye. It's very significant. It's quite significant." And he goes on to say, "Look, it's a bit too soon to tell, but there's a lot of damage. There is a lot of damage to your left eye." And now Zandi has this very sinking feeling in her stomach. She knows because what she hasn't been telling her parents is that she's struggling to see through her left eye. And she thinks it's normal because she's been punched and she's been beaten. But now it's starting to occur to her that this very eye that the doctor's saying there's been significant damage, that's the eye she's not quite seeing through clearly. She gets glimpses of light and then it disappears, and then there's glimpses of light. She doesn't know what's going on, but she can feel, she can sense there's something not quite right. And so she outright asks the doctor, "Am I going blind?" And he says to her, "It's too soon to tell, Zandi, but there's a very, very good chance that you may never gain vision back in your left eye. It has been pretty much shredded." And she starts crying and crying and crying, and the doctor reiterates how sorry he is, and that please just focus on your recovery process. Everything is going to be okay. Now Zandi's parents are holding her and trying to comfort her. They're devastated. They're absolutely devastated. But they can't stand there and start crying with her. I mean, she needs them. She needs their protection. She needs their support. And so they sit there and they're comforting her and they're reassuring her that everything's going to be okay and that they're going to do what they can to help her and that she mustn't worry. She must focus on healing. She must focus on being calm. And she just lays there. She just lays there and she's looking at them and she keeps on saying to them, I'm going to go blind. I'm never going to be the same. I'm going to be blind. And they say, no, Zandi, don't say that. Don't say that. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Within a month of her being admitted or going to hospital, she's, of course, at home now, and Mona's mother decided to move in with them to, be that extra support and that extra, layer that they needed through this very difficult time. It was very, very traumatic. It was very, very, very traumatic. Besides the fact that she has significant damage to her eye, she is reeling from the fact that her boyfriend, who she thought loved her, who she absolutely adored, beat her. He was the reason she was in this situation. She thought that he was the person who was going to protect her and be that ride or die. No, he was the person she needed protection from. That's what that was. So she's devastated. And so Gogo moves in because her thing is, look, my daughter needs the support and so does my granddaughter. And so I'm going to be here. And during that time, during the recovery process, they had a therapist coming to see Uzandi at the house. And Gogo was happy because for her, the most important thing is, she needs to talk this through. She needs to process it. She needs to release it. She needs it to pass through her body, through her system, through her spirit, through her mind. She just wants her granddaughter to be okay. And as long as she's talking and expressing and, just all of that, as far as she's concerned, this is all part of the healing process. As long as she's talking, she's healing. And so she's just happy her granddaughter's getting this help. But she tells her granddaughter, my child, I really, really would like you to come with me to church. You're now able to leave the house. And I think it's very important that you come to church. You need a lot more than the help you're getting in therapy. I really think we need some sort of supernatural intervention. We need God. We need the Holy Spirit in this situation. So I need you to come with me to church. Now, Zandi is not about to put up any fight. She's traumatized. She's fragile. At this point, she wants all the help she can get. And faith and belief in church is nothing new to her. She grew up in this. Although her mother wasn't as staunch or as, as forceful as her grandmother was, she knew what church was about. She had been there, and so she agreed. She said to her grandmother, okay, I'll come with you. And quite frankly, the grandmother wasn't really giving her much of an option. It was, my child, you need to come with me to church. And so she goes. And after the church service, they go up to the front for prayer. And they meet this really lovely lady who prays for them and who was also a counselor. And Gogo feels, right, this is sent from God. This was meant to happen. We were supposed to be here at this time, at this place. This is definitely from God. And she says to this lady, I would love to bring my granddaughter to you for counseling. Is there any way we can set it up? And this lady says, of course. I mean, she's a prayer warrior. She's a counselor. This is what she does at the church. And she says, of course, can we schedule an appointment for sometime this week? Zandi agrees, the grandmother agrees, and they leave. When they get back to the house, the grandmother tells her daughter Mona, this is what's going to be happening. I'm going to be taking Uzandi to church. She's not going to stop her therapy sessions. The therapist is still going to come here to the house, but I do feel like we need to get her in church. And so that's what I'm going to be doing. Mona had no problems with that. She knows her mom. She knows her mom's beliefs. She knows how her mom operates. That is not a problem. And quite frankly, she needs that support. She needs that support because she's going crazy. She's absolutely going crazy. She's reeling from this. She is just as traumatized as her daughter. This is her child, the person she was supposed to protect, who's been beaten and battered. She was there to see her daughter the day she'd been beaten. She's been living through all of this, taking care of her while her daughter is losing her eyesight. And so she's just like, Mom, you do what you believe is right. And so the grandmother takes her to church. They go to church during the week, and the grandmother is clear to Zandi, I'm not going to come in with you. This is your opportunity to speak with a counselor, just like your therapy. I'm just here to bring you and, to support, but I'm not coming in the room with you. And Zandi she's happy. She's fine with that. So she goes into the counselor's room, and the counselor lets her know that, Zandi, you can call me Mrs. Ngala or you can call me B, but yes, I'm here to counsel you. I want you to feel comfortable. I want you to, just let go. This is a free and very safe space. I don't want you to feel you have to share too much at the beginning. Let's just talk. Let's just have a conversation. Let this be a natural process. I want you to grow to trust me, and I understand that trust is something that is built. So let's just take it from here. And, her demeanor, her aura, her energy was so welcoming and soft and calm, and it felt so pure that Zandi just felt safe with her and comfortable. And so in the next couple of sessions with B, Zandi gets to talking about her upbringing, talks about how she met her dad around the age of 5 years old, how she's very close to him, but they don't have a very very tight bond. In other words, she's close to her father, but there's so much that is lacking in terms of, what a father really teaches his daughter. And she talks about her beliefs, her family dynamic at home. And eventually she builds up the courage to talk about her relationship with Malcolm. And she begins to explain to B that, her and Malcolm met when she was only 16. Remember, she's 18 now. So her and Malcolm met when she was 16 at a house gathering of a friend. Malcolm was her friend's brother's friend. They met at this house. They started talking. They hit it off. And they very quickly, started liking each other. She started speaking to him all the time. And she pretty much explained that he became her safety blanket, her comfort. They used to do everything together. They would go and watch movies, go out, go to eat. He had met Mona, her mom. And then she said, as time started to go on, he became a lot more jealous. And he became a lot more aggressive. And because he was a little older than her, she kind of felt like, well, this is just what older guys are like. And the jealousy and the control turned into a lot more aggressive behavior. And she said when he felt like he wasn't able to control her the way he wanted to, he got more and more frustrated until eventually he started slapping her, and he would pinch her and he would push her and sometimes pull her hair. And she said it had never been as bad as, what landed her in hospital, but this wasn't anything new. He used to get physical with her, and the only person that knew was her best friend. And she many a times said that she wanted to report this and she wanted to say something, and she did. She told her brother that his boy was doing all of the stuff, and the brother tried to talk to him, and as a result they're no longer friends. But she never wanted to violate her and Zandi's relationship, their friendship, and so she never took it to Mona. But she used to say to Zandi all the time, like, this isn't normal, this is not okay, he needs to stop doing this. And he would come back and apologize, and he would make her feel good again and say all the things that she wanted to hear. And a part of her felt almost grateful that this guy was giving her so much of his time and attention. A part of her felt grateful and felt wanted and needed and desired, because not only was this guy giving her some of his attention, this guy was doing the most to keep her, to have her, to make sure no other guy could take her. And there was something about that made her feel wanted. There was something about that made her feel loved. And the more she's explaining all of this to B is listening, and she's now starting to put the puzzle pieces together. She's now starting to understand that a lot of Zandi's issues actually go back to her childhood. And again, although her father was there, although she met her father at age 5, and they had maintained a close relationship, from her understanding of what Zandi was saying, the father was not really fathering. He wasn't teaching in Zandi about, self-love, and teaching her about the importance of being treated properly and how men are supposed to treat you. I wonder why. And so now for her, it's clearer and clearer and clearer. And she says to Zandi, I'm going to ask you something, and I'm hoping that you'll agree to it. But if you're not comfortable just yet, I understand. We'll continue with the sessions. But I think it's very important that I sit with your dad. And I think it's important we all do a session together, me, you, and your dad, so that he can understand the role that he now needs to play moving forward in order to help your healing process. This is not about blame. This is not about, trying to make your dad feel bad. This is purely about how do we move forward from here? Because part of the healing process is understanding, is wisdom, is understanding what we can do to rectify all these past mistakes, all these past traumas and insecurities. How can we start to fill those holes again? And Zandi agrees. She agrees. She feels very, 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 very comfortable with B. She feels very comfortable with her. And so she agrees. Now, apart from their counseling about what had happened and who Zandi was and what Zandi had been through, B stepped in as the person to start teaching Zandi about prayer, and started teaching her about how to pray, and started helping her rebuild a relationship with God, started helping her seek those things she's out in the streets looking for from God, her Father. And she started helping her read her Bible, started helping her with understanding. And of course, would call her during the week, even when they did not have their sessions. Even on the days they did not have their sessions, to pray for her and to send her scripts and, just to uplift her out of this. So Zandi felt so comfortable with B, so very comfortable with her. And she went home and she told her dad that this is what needs to happen, and she would really appreciate it if her dad would be present and would participate. And the dad didn't think twice about it. And of course, his wife, Sibongile, was there supporting and also trying to be the encourager. She's a mom herself. So she understands the importance of, the dad being more present and learning how to be a better parent and a better father, and teaching his daughters about self-love and respect and protection and all of those things. So she's also being very, very, very supportive. And so he goes with her to that session. They pull up to the room, her counseling room, her prayer room, her war room. And they knock on the door. And B gets up and she opens the door. And Zandi greets her with this very warm, fond, soft smile on her face. And she walks in. I mean, she knows where to go. She knows where she sits. And Ken is standing there looking at her, B, like, what the hell? B is looking at Ken like, you. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So is B not Ntombi? The girl, the lady that Ken had dated, who had lived with him, who had nurtured him, who had prayed for him, who had helped take care of him, who cooked and cleaned for him. She was his ex, the one that he cheated on, the one who cooked him that beautiful dish, that oxtail and mashed potatoes and beans, and then left his ass. She left and she never looked back. Now he was there looking at this woman who he loved. Well, he believed he loved. He's looking at her in the face, and now everything is starting to just make sense to Ntombi. Everything is making sense. Everything. And so she welcomes him in. She doesn't want to startle Zandi. She doesn't want to make things uncomfortable for Zandi, so she doesn't say anything. And they begin their therapy session. And B starts off by explaining, to Ken that, look, I've been seeing your daughter for this amount of time, as you know, and through our therapy sessions, through this counseling and through prayers and all of that, these are the things that I feel are key factors to helping her healing process. These are key factors to helping her, become the woman she's supposed to be. And he's just looking at her and she's explaining that, look, this is no judgment. This is no attack, but I'm getting the sense that even though you have been a very present father and your daughter, Ken, she loves you so much. She loves you so, so very much. She lights up when she talks about you. You're the apple of her eye. She loves you so much. But what I think might be lacking is spiritual wisdom, and also having you be the person to teach her how a man is supposed to treat her. You being the person to treat her, that a man is not supposed to lay his hands on her, that he's not supposed to cheat on her, that he's not supposed to disrespect her, that he's supposed to speak to her nicely, that he's supposed to love her and take care of her and make her feel safe and valued. And the more she's talking, and now listen, B is not saying any of this with malice or with ill intention or with aggression. She's saying this out of a place of love. She's come to know Zandi and really, really be fond of her. So she's saying this out of genuine, I want to help. I've come to really, 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 really like your daughter. I'm here to help. I want to help. And the more Ntombi is explaining all of this, Ken is sitting there looking at her and just listening to all of it. And now all of a sudden his past behavior and his poor behavior and all the terrible things he's done in the past and the women he's hurt and used and abused are now racing through his mind. And he's sitting there and he's fighting back tears. He's feeling super emotional, super, super, super emotional. And he's listening to her and he cannot help but notice that on B's wedding finger, there's a ring. And there's something about Ntombi that is very light and full of love and full of good and pure energy. There's something about her that has changed. She looks genuinely happy. She looks happy. And he's looking at this woman who he had used and abused and hurt so badly. And looking at the fact that she's now married, she's happy, she's in this position where now she's counseling other women, and now this woman or young lady now happens to be my daughter. Everything is racing through his mind. And Ntombi is trying her best to be sensitive because she knows this is a sensitive topic. She knows it's a sensitive topic because she knows part of the reason why Uzandi has felt that Malcolm's behavior has been okay and has allowed him to abuse her for so long is because she hasn't had a father figure explaining to her the importance of a man valuing her. Yes, they've spent a lot of time together, but that's not the same thing as your father teaching you about self-love, teaching you about value, teaching you about how a man is supposed to be treating you, teaching you about, how a man is supposed to protect you. And if you are or happen to be seeing a guy, the father is supposed to intervene, perhaps maybe even meet this guy. See who this is that is taking his daughter out. And so he's explaining. And obviously that lesson was that counseling session wasn't enough. And so he went back a few more times to sit and listen to Ntombi parting with wisdom, her wisdom, and praying for them, and enlightening the situation, and giving them, what they needed to progress and to further heal, and what they needed to do to build this relationship. Now, this is Ken's last session with his daughter. He feels like, and so does Ntombi, quite frankly, that they don't need to continue to do this as a family. He feels that, or she feels like she's happy to continue with Zandi. And yeah, Ken, he can go about his way. And so at the end of the session, she thanks Ken for coming in, and Ken says to her, do you mind if we have a word? And he asks Zandi to step out. And he says to her, first of all, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for lifting my daughter up out of this. The healing you've brought to her life is wow. She is a different person. She's so much more confident. She's so much more, her energy has shifted. It has changed. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. And part of the fact that she was healing internally and even spiritually was helping her, just have a more positive outlook and be more determined to heal even physically. She was making her mind stronger. And he also said to her, I just want to apologize to you for what I did. I want to apologize to you for what I did. This is an apology I owed you many years ago. And I don't know why I didn't do more to look for you to apologize. I was childish. I was still about my rubbish. And I'm sorry. I broke your heart. I'm sorry I did what I did. And B let him know that she'd forgiven him. She had forgiven him long ago. She had forgiven him, and that for her, she doesn't even really need the sorry. The sorry is more for him. He needed to be the person to say sorry to help his healing process, but she didn't even really need to. She didn't even need to hear the sorry. What she needed was to see that he had changed and he had learned from his mistakes, and she was seeing that, and she was happy. Now back at home, Ugogo is telling Mona, you need to go to church. Sit down with this lady. Even if it's not the same lady, go to church and sit with the counselor, because what has happened to your daughter, what's been going on these past couple of months, I'm seeing your energy shift. I'm seeing you more angry and more frustrated and more abrasive. My child, you need to go to church. This has been a very traumatic. What has happened to your daughter is very, very traumatic. You need to go to church. Now, Mona has been feeling it. She's been feeling it. She's devastated. And although this has been so therapeutic and helpful to her daughter, she's now learned that her daughter has been in this abusive relationship. She's learned that her daughter has been taking these beatings, this abuse, this verbal and physical abuse, and she's feeling enraged. She's devastated. She's hurt. Her daughter and her were very close. Why didn't she see this? Why didn't she see any of this? She's feeling like a terrible mom. She's going through the emotions of guilt and desperation and heartache, pain. She's feeling it. And her mom knows her. Gogo knows her child. She sees the pain in Mona's eyes, and she keeps on saying, you need to go to church. You need to come with me to church. You see what's happening with Uzandi. It can happen with you too. You need to come to church. And Mona keeps putting it off. Eventually one day, Mona and her mother are sitting in the lounge area, and Uzandi comes rushing in to the lounge, and she says, Gogo, mom, look at what has happened. And they say, what's going on? And she starts reading off her phone. She says, apparently Malcolm has gone missing. The parents have come onto social media to beg for any assistance. They're saying that he's nowhere to be found. They don't think he's run away because he's left a lot of his stuff at the house, things that he would never be without. most importantly, they're talking about this is the last place he was seen, and she starts explaining everything Malcolm's parents are saying online in a plea to get their son back, in a plea for any information anybody may have. They want their son back. They're worried, they're scared, they're sick to their stomachs. And the more the more Uzandi is explaining the story, the more she's talking, there's something that's not sitting well within Gogo. She's listening to the story. She's listening. And then she looks over at Mona, her daughter, like, my child, what have you done? What have you done to this young man?